Hi, my name is Jasminda. I'm from Eastern Regional Libraries, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to make two different types of bird feeders. So one type's a little bit more difficult than the other, but you'll need you're grown up, for either one that you do. So let's get started. So the first one we're going to make is one made out of a can, and you're going to have to make sure that whatever can you use is one that doesn't have any sharp edges. So the reason for that is obviously if the birds are eating out of there, you got to make sure that they're not going to cut themselves, or you cut yourself when you're doing it. So there's a couple of different options. There's containers like this, or you might go for something like this, because when you open it up, this one we haven't actually finished, it's not sharp around here. So that's a good option as well. So just make sure that neither of them are cardboard, because when you hang it outside and if it rains, it'll get soggy. And you've got to remember, with anything to do with bird feeders or like water for birds, or even your animals, any animal, you've got to make sure that it stays clean. So yeah, you can fill it up with bird seed, and then once it's all been eaten, you'll have to empty it, clean it, pop it back up. And the reason for this is that we don't want to promote any sort of illness, or like a bacteria growing in there, or making the birds ill, or any sort of sickness, I guess. So it's exactly the same as if you have a bird feeder with water in it. You should clean it probably like once a week, and that's the same as these. So I'm going to make two different ones today to show you, as I said, and we're going to do two different can ones, and we'll also do some Pinecone ones, but we'll get to those ones later. All right, so the things you'll need to make the can bird feeder. This one I'm going to be wrapping in twine, and also some wool that we have here, but you could use anything really, but just remember it should be something that is safe to be outside and also to be around birds. So we're going to use this, and you will also need your grown-up for this. We're going to use a little bit of hot glue. If that's not an option, you can go with the other option that we'll be talking about in a little bit. So let's get started. And we'll pop another dollop. So we're just wrapping it around and making sure that some of it gets onto that glue. And just for a bit of fun, I'm going to use a different color wool in a little bit. And I'm just going to push this down. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to make sure I glue like this last little point down. If you don't have a hot glue gun, you can use something else, like perhaps just some PVA or something. Or, as I said, you can go with the other option to decorate your bird feeder. So I'm going to tie this together. Just going to do one of these knots. And although I did do a little bit of scouts, I'm not a very good knot tire. So do it like that. Yeah, that's not bad, huh? So we'll start wrapping again. And this one's a bit thicker than the twine as well, so I reckon it'll take less time. And I'm just going to leave this out so I can cut off that part afterwards. So we'll just go around and around, and you just keep doing this with whatever you have, whether it's ribbon, twine, as I said, like cotton, anything works. Okay, so this is where we're up to. You can make yours a bit more, together than mine is. But basically you have to remember as well, so we're going to make a perch for our birds to sit on. So we'll make that out of a paddle pop stick, but you could use anything. You could use a branch, a stick, something else. And we're going to stick that to the bottom so that the birds have something to rest on when they're getting all the seed out. But we also have to make some loops so that we can hang it from a tree in a secure sort of way. So we'll make a loop on this side, and we're also going to make a loop on this side, which will then tie whatever string or rope we're using to it. we're going to do a loop here, and we're also going to make sure we do a loop on the other side. I think you can just do it by sight, but if you want to be more precise, you could always measure it. So let's do a loop. So here we go. So we've got our two ends together. We're going to wrap this part around, and then we're going to thread it through. And we might do a double knot as well, just so that we know that it's not going to come undone. So there's the loop on one side, and like I said, let's just wrap it around again, pop it back through. And I've cut this piece of thread so that it's a little bit easier to do the loops, but also because I want to switch colors again. So there's our loop for one side. So once it's stuck down, we'll have a nice little hanging thing so that we can hang it from the tree. And we're going to do another one on the other side because I prefer it to be super secure for when we put the paddle pop stick on and for when the birds are eating, so that, you know, even if it's windy, it'll stay in the tree. Okay, back to it. So I'm just going to secure that one down. Perfect. And we're just going to go all the way to the other side. And like I said, you can do it by sight, I reckon. And this is about halfway around the other side. So we're going to do another loop. So you make the loop, we take the end, we wrap it around, we put it through, and just tighten that. And we're going to do a double knot. So we're going to wrap it around again and pop it through. And you don't have to be an expert knot tier, clearly, because I am not very good at this, clearly. There we go. So there's our knot. So I'm going to stick that one down as well and finish wrapping what twine I have, or wool in this case, left around. And then I'm going to swap to another color again. So there we go. And let's keep going. And when you're wrapping it around, you can just do this and then just push it down. It works quite well as well. Or if you're a bit more of a perfectionist, you could do it really well. So that's all we've got left. So I'm going to go back to the twine. Before I do that though, you can see the two loops that we have. So they're going to go this way for when we're hanging it in the tree. And we're going to pop our paddle pop stick on the bottom. So we're going to also glue that down. And you can hide it so that it's not like sticking out. So let's glue that on. As I said, this is where you get your grown up. Any hot glue the grown up should do. So let's hold that on for a minute. And this might look really nice, yeah, with like a branch that you find outside, something like that. Okay, let's go back to the twine. So remember how we did it before? We're going to do it exactly the same, where we tie it together. And then we're going to snip off the ends at the end so we can neaten it up. So let's tie those two together. Nice, secure double knot. Boom. Okay, so let's pop a little bit more glue just there. And then we'll start wrapping again. And like I said, just go over the paddle pop stick. And it's even more secure this way because you've wrapped it, you've tied it in, and you've also glued it down. So go. And you can either tie off the ends or you can glue it down. There we go. So I'm going to snip this part here because I don't think it looks very pretty. If you don't care, you can leave it. There's one. And where's the other one? Oh, there it is. Perfect. Okay. So there we have it. And now what we have to do for this last part is we have to secure it so that it hangs in the tree and put some birdseed in, and we can see what sort of wildlife or wild birds we're going to attract. I'd like to remind everyone as well, if you've got outdoor cats, maybe it's best to put the bird feeder somewhere else. Also be aware that maybe it's good to change the branches as well, because as the birds are eating the bird seed, sometimes they put the leftover like stuff that they don't eat, it falls underneath. So it's good to like move that around to avoid attracting things like mice, rats, those sorts of things. So let's give it a go. So as you guys know, this is the bird feeder, but you might want to try experimenting with a different length perch, because the longer it is, the more it's probably going to wobble. So you might want to try like a half-size perch, depends on what sort of sticks you have at home. We're also going to do the tying now. So get a length of twine, ribbon, wool, whatever it is you're using, and just going to cut that off. And I use these 2 loops, but you can try a whole variety of different things. Like, think of it as an engineering challenge. So I'm going to pop it through the loop, pop it over here. I'm going to, because I want it to come through the other loop, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to tie it off just here, using those super complicated knots that I've been using this whole time. It's definitely a joke, guys. And probably a double knot. There we go. So we can tie that to our perch, fill it up with birdseed, and like I said, this will only really attract little birds because the size of the opening is quite small, and also the perch is quite small. So we'll test it out, and I'll show you the other ones that we're going to make as well. Okay, so this one's a bit easier than wrapping it. So once again, you go get a can, a clean one, like the one we showed you before that doesn't have any sharp edges. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to paint it. So you can decorate these really however you want. And if you don't want to decorate them, that's totally up to you. You could even use textures. But today we're going to use some acrylic paints, and we're going to decorate it so that it looks really pretty, so that, you know, it's also like a little bit of a feature in the garden. So I'm going to take some black paint. And also the other colors I have here is copper, and I'm going to see what red and yellow look like. They might look terrible, but we're going to find out together. All right, so I'm going to get some black, some copper. You can use any colors. Like I said, this is totally up to you. Oh, that's pretty. See the copper? And I'm also going to get, these are going to be my highlight colors, some red and some yellow. And we might need more because I'm using a sponge for quick surface coverage. So I'm just going to dab it on like that. And another great thing about this is we're totally upcycling. I love upcycling. Using things that we have in our houses already, that we've already used the products from, and we create something new. that. And we'll stick it on before we do the next part. So we'll wait for this to dry, and we'll come back and we'll pop some other colors on. Okay, so we're waiting for our can to dry. So now I'm just going to decorate it a little bit more with that copper. I thought we could do a little bit of a funky pattern. So that's what it's looking like now. Okay, so this was the one I was painting before. So I'm just going to put some hot glue on this one and stick it to the bottom. And then I'm just going to wrap some ribbon around it so that we can hang it up. So let's do that. And remember, you need your grown-up to do this. Okay. And so we just attach that on quite firmly. And this one I've made a lot shorter than the other one we made earlier. So you can see a lot shorter. So, and like I said, it'd be really good if you could experiment with lots of different can sizes or, you know, different bottles or whatever, because the different openings will attract different creatures or different birds, different native wildlife. Okay, that's perfect. That's on. So let's tie it up. I think orange, it's like, oh, no, I'm gonna go blue. Blue is a good choice. And just with this one, I'm just gonna wrap it around a couple of times and then hang it. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut off a length. So I want this one to hang a bit lower, I think, than the other ones. See what birds we can attract further down. To the side. Okay. That knot, and I'm trying to keep it so that the paddle pop stick stays on the bottom so that the knot I'm tying is right at the very top, so it's not like moving around too much. And we can see which ones are more stable. Go. And move it down a little bit. Maybe a bit more. Full balancing act. That's perfect. There we go. So there's another one, and we've got some other ones. So now I'm going to show you how to make a pine cone bird feeder. So pine trees, you can find them everywhere in the suburbs, everywhere. So you've probably seen pine cones everywhere as well, and this is a useful way of using them. So these are the flowers on pine trees, and that's what they look like before they turn into pine cones. So this is my pine cone. I found it while out walking. So what you can do is grab whatever pine cones you find, leave them to dry for a bit, clean them off, make sure there's no like gross stuff in it, and make sure you don't grab any of the moldy ones because this is what we're going to be using. As I said, dry it out for a little bit, and you really want it to be more open than this one is. If you can find ones that are a lot more open, it's way better. So for this bird feeder, you're going to need pine cones. You're going to need some sort of twine, string, ribbon, something to hang it from the tree. You're going to need peanut butter. So I've got some peanut butter here. And you're also going to need some bird food. So what bird seed is good for wild birds? That's a great question. So sunflower seeds are great for birds. So if in doubt, tend to go for the sunflower seed, but you can also use striped sunflower seeds. Cracked corn is really good in small amounts. Whole corn has very limited amounts of birds that can eat it, but you can test it and see what birds come to eat that. The ones that we tend to suggest you stay away from are things like grass seeds, oats, wheat, you know, that sort of stuff. Some other stuff that is good for birds is things like peanuts. They like peanuts, which is why we're using peanut butter. And also like safflower. There's a whole lot of other seeds. If you do a quick Google or some research with some books in the library, you'll be able to find out a lot more. But as I said, sunflower seeds are a safe bet. So we tend to suggest you use those for what we're going to do today. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our peanut butter and we're going to cover the pine cone in the peanut butter, and then we're going to roll it in the seeds. But first, I think this is the easiest way to do it. We're going to tie the string or the twine or whatever you're using to the little branch, the part that it's broken off from, so that we can hang it from the tree. So I tend to think it's easier to do it now. If you forget to do it, that's totally fine, and you can do it at the end, but it'll be a little bit messier. So let's grab our string. And we suggest you measure it from the tree for how far you have to hang it down. So I reckon about that much. Some scissors, and if you're not allowed to use your scissors, get your grown-up to help you with the cutting of the wool. And then what you're going to do is you're going to wrap it around the stem. You're going to tie it. So wrap that around. Wrap it around again. And make sure it's secure. I'm just going to wrap it around one more time. It's better safe than sorry. There'd be nothing worse for a bird than landing on this and starting to have a great little snack and then having it fall off the tree. So there we go. So let's get covering that in peanut butter. So we're going to take the peanut butter, and you can use a spoon for this if mum or dad or your grown-up says so. Or you can use like a paddle pop stick or something else. Or, you know, if you want to be really messy, you could use your hands. But I wouldn't suggest that because peanut butter is very, very oily. So this is why it's super duper good to have a pine cone with lots and lots of gaps, so that when you're running it across, it's getting in all the gaps, so that the sunflower seeds and whatever seeds you're using can stick in there. And it's also great to remember while you're doing this, this is just a snack for birds. This isn't going to be their meal. You know, we say bird feeder, but it's just a snack because, you know, they might come and have this delicious snack in your backyard, but they'll continue to forage and go looking for more food. And something to keep in mind is, yeah, if you have any other pets like cats and they're an outside cat during the day, it might not be the best idea to put a bird feeder in your backyard because cats are super duper smart and they don't love birds. Or maybe you have a dog that jumps really high or chases birds, so it might not be the best option, but you know, you could make one of these and put it at somebody else's house if they said yes. Alrighty. Just covering it, getting that peanut butter everywhere. And I'm just going to make sure at the end of this that I just wash my hands really well. And some of the other bird feeder sort of like recipes, I guess you would call, I've seen, they tell you to use gelatin, but gelatin isn't actually very good for birds. So maybe investigate some other options before using something like gelatin. Okay, almost there. We're on to the last bit of peanut butter. This turned out to be quite a big pine cone. Okay, and I'm just going to rest it there while I get this little bit out and cover it just here. Smear it all the way to the top. Okay, perfect. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these seeds and we're going to pop them all on. And just mix it around. So do that until it's covered. So it looks like I've covered the pine cone in sunflower seeds. As you can see, I really don't want to touch it anywhere other than the top. You can see that it's covered, and we're just going to rest that, and then we can hang it up in our tree. Okay, so we've filled these up with birdseed. So make sure you only probably fill them up with birdseed about here, because when you turn it on its side, you don't want all the birdseed to come out, right? You just want to have a little bit coming out. So these are ones that we've tied up, but I'm going to get a taller person to help. This was the shortest tree that I could find with branches, and I've hung all the ones that the shorter length, but yeah, we're going to put some a bit higher up. So I'll come back to you in a second. Okay, so we've managed to hang them all up, and you can see all the different types that we've made. So some we used paint, we've used some ribbon. Here's the pine cone ones that we did before, and yeah, we've only filled them up part of the way, because remember, when the bird lands on here, it's going to tip down. So make sure that they're hanging a bit up, so that yeah, the birdseed doesn't fall out the rest of the time. So we've put all of ours in this tree for now, but you know, once the birdseed's finished, make sure you clean them, because as I said, you don't want them getting gross or, you know, spreading disease. So clean them probably once a week, and maybe move them to another tree close by, because that way the husks of the birdseed the wild birds will eat, it'll litter the ground. So if you move them to another tree, you know, you can spread that around. So that's how you make some bird feeders, some natural bird feeders, doing some reusing and upcycling, and also using some natural resources that we've found. So give it a go, let me know how it goes, and yeah, take some photos of what beautiful wild birds come to your backyard. Bye.